Welcome back. Joe Volpe, the publisher of Corriere Canadese, North America's only Italian language daily newspaper, on behalf of Go Live TV and Corcan Media Group with the comment of the day. It's been a couple of weeks of really tough negotiations on the NAFTA, and so the comment today is about Trump, trade, and Trudeau. Now, Canadians can be forgiven if their eyes are starting to glaze over with indifference as a result of the never-ending, on again, off again discussions on the North American Free Trade Agreement, the NAFTA. The chest-thumping negotiating tactics by President Trump and Prime Minister Trudeau fall just short of political theater. Predictable and second-rate drama. But, in the words of another great American entrepreneur made famous by Hollywood scriptwriters, it's just business. Neither leader, actor, has full control over the direction or the outcome. Try as they might to influence both. The marketplace, as they say, will make the ultimate choice. The customer, in this case the electorate, will punish the leadership that is perceived to end up on the wrong side of that choice. First, consider the playing field and what is at stake. Trump says that the NAFTA has been a disaster for the United States, that Canada has been eating America's lunch. Trudeau says he won't sign on to a bad deal. No deal is better than a bad deal, he says, or so he would have us believe. Leaving the Mexican partner to one side for a moment, the Canada-US side of the relationship is significant. More so for Canada than it is for the United States, in the large scheme of things. The two-way trade between us amounts to an impressive $2 billion per day and more. The value varies according to the criteria applied by Statistics Canada or by the U.S. Trade Department to the value of the goods and services in the calculation. But it's a pretty good approximation. This notwithstanding, the relative significance to the overall gross domestic product, the GDP, measured in purchasing power parity, the 3 Ps, reveals an imbalance in the importance of this bilateral relationship to each country. For Canada, trade with the United States constitutes 33% of our country's GDP, 1 out of every $3 of wealth generated in the country. For the United States, it's a paltry 3% of their GDP. The imbalance is even more stark when one considers that in the context of the total value of import-export activity in the world, trade represents only 20% of the U.S.'s GDP, again measured in purchasing power parity, while for Canada, that total is 50%. That's 1 out of every $2 earned. The USA is as close as any nation can get to being self-sufficient. Even if one were to exclude the North American, continental trade, supply chain of primary and human resources as a singular component of its production and consumption market. Now, this unbroken supply chain that is at the base of the NAFTA negotiations, creating one market that has one secure supply chain and that would keep others out while creating synergies for the benefit of the 3 continental partners, and yet still keep their sovereignty more or less intact. Canada brings a wealth of natural resources to the table. However, its political governance structure is mitigated by competing provincial authorities, First Nations, and previous legislative and court decisions favoring the rights of corporate entities investing in the commercialization of those resources. In other words, we don't have complete control over them. American companies already own more than 50% of the lumber rights available in British Columbia, for example. A previous government dismantled the wheat board so that giant American corporations in the agricultural market, Cargill and Monsanto, for example, now determine the direction of trade in those products. And while Canada has the third largest known oil reserves in the world, after only Saudi Arabia and Venezuela, I'll bet you a lot of people didn't know that, enough to last another 200 years at today's rate of consumption, the decisions regarding petroleum exploration and marketing in North America are made by the oil companies in Texas and Oklahoma. As to the value of our agricultural export market to the United States, it represents only 1.7% of our GDP, milk and milk products being a fraction of that. Manufacturing, on the other hand, now largely auto assembly and auto parts producers related, accounts for about 13% of Canadian GDP. This sector, too, is already integrated. The decision makers are foreign automakers. Governments incent them with tax breaks and other inducements like lower wages, weak labor laws, transport subsidies, etc., to keep them local here or to motivate their relocation here. For governments, it's all about the jobs. For leaders, it's about the votes. For everybody else, it's just business. Trump is basking in a world of adulation, a dream world of, oh, it's all about me. He fancies himself a master of brinksmanship. It's an environment where he can and does create a diversion a day to keep himself at the center of attention. He tolerates no competitors to that agenda, including Canadians. In this dance with a 500-pound gorilla, Trudeau's personal task is to appear relatively nimble on a floor where others are providing the music. Joe Volpe for Corriere Canadese, Go Live TV, and Corriere Media Group, inviting you to stay tuned for the comment in Italian and subsequently in Portuguese. Thank you.